Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Today we are going to have a very interesting session. It's really interesting topic. We're going to talk about what is hate crime and how bad it is in our local community. So inshallah, you will really enjoy this session. So I'm hoping you will. So inshallah, hey, sunshine, hello, sweetheart. So let me add diversity matter Northwest. Yes, okay. So I'm gonna add diversity matter Northwest where I work. Inshallah, that so they will join me as well in this session. So this session, hello, there is our lovely lady from Diversity Matter Northwest. So do you want to go faster, Hannah?
Yeah, I'm Rahana, one of the chief exec over at Diversity Matters. So I'm here today with our lovely Lisa, who's organised this live IG page to talk about kind of standing together to address hate crime, because a lot of us would have been encountering that every day. So this will be our opportunity to talk to people about it in a safe platform, but also as well to tell people where they can access support and how we can get that support early rather than leaving it to wait. So hopefully that's what Terry will be doing when he comes on the live session.
Terry is joining now. Yeah, I request. Yeah, I accept his request. Yes, he's going to be joined now. Hello, Terry.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good.
Hi,
Did you
Terry.
find it easy to log in?
Well, I've tried to go on my work computer, so I've got Instagram on that, but I couldn't find the live link, so I reverted back to my phone, which is crystal clear.
Yes.
But anyway, we managed it.
Yes. That's
This
good.
is my first time doing this, so this is amazing.
So
amazing.
Yeah, it's a good platform. It's such a good
It's
platform.
okay, Terry. It's my second time.
It's all right. It's good actually. It's very clear. I must admit, very clear. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Absolutely fine.
Yes, we can hear
Fabulous.
you. Very good.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
so how are
good.
things? Okay.
Yes, good. So I'm very excited for tonight's session. It's very good.
All right. Awesome.
Start off with just introducing yourself, Terry,
Absolutely.
whilst we wait for Lisa to
Sure,
come
I
back.
don't know who's on this, but yeah, Terry Finn, my name. I was a police officer for 31 years. I retired in 2018. Most of my time now I spend doing voluntary work with guide dogs. My dog is around here somewhere. But the other part of my life is doing work with the local authority at Tameside. And my specific role is community cohesion, which may sound a little bit grand, but in essence, it's keeping people connected and making sure where, if opportunities exist across different communities, that I at least try and signpost them to all the communities so that everybody gets included wherever possible. And the beauty for me is in this job, because of the connections I made whilst as a police officer, moving into the local authority world has been quite straightforward because I've kept the same contacts and the same people. And if anything, I've broadened my network because of that. So started from a good position, a good starting position, if you like, and it's developed from there. But hate crime is my passion because I was an inspector at Hyde for a number of years. Dealt with some quite high profile cases in Hyde. For those that might know the area, we had the EDL there a number of years ago and one or two other high profile cases as well. And my team would have dealt with a lot of that. So it's been something very close to my heart for a while. And when this job came along, although it's part-time, I thought perfect to keep pushing the message as much as possible. Because you might already be aware that 2 weeks of each year, in February and October, there is a Hate Crime Awareness Week across Greater Manchester. You may be aware, some may not be, because it's publicised quite well in certain areas and less so in other areas. But I've decided that rather than just wait for those 2 weeks, I'd like to have these conversations every month. So I try and get into groups as much as I can, book quite well in advance, and then talk about what is hate crime, what are hate incidents, because there's a difference, and then what is the best way for me to report it. And then we try and discuss reasons why people don't report it as well, and that's very important as well. As a police officer, I'm quite aware of there's a lot of reasons why people don't report hate crime and hate incidents. So the aim of this sort of half an hour input, 35 minutes, is to understand hate crime, hate incidents, what the difference is, how to report it, and then we discuss what are the reasons not for reporting it, and are there some barriers that we can break down and make it better. So it's quite simple in terms of aims, quite interactive as well. Generally, I would run a presentation on a big PowerPoint. I'm not going to do that today, but I'll just talk to my notes and take any questions at any stage you feel fit. So, so that's me. Any questions so far? Have a quick glug of coffee while you're talking.
One more thing I just like to tell everyone, if anyone like to do a session with PowerPoint, end of the session, if anyone like to join our PowerPoint, we can arrange from Diversity Matter Northwest, we can arrange a Zoom session where we can invite Terry to come and go through with PowerPoint and more details about this session. So anyone really interested, this is my main target is mine. Today going to be open session, and in future next month, October month is very, very good for organizing a session in the Zoom. So in the Zoom is going to be open. Anyone around the world, from Thameside, outside Thameside, you can join for understand what is hate crime. And a lot of people, we are going through abuse and hate crime, and we didn't notice, we never noticed, we never knew this is a going on hate crime. So people should understand what is it. And in future, if people want more session, I'm happy to
thank you.
Yeah,
that's really kind of you, that, because again, having spent all my working career dealing with hate crime, I can't honestly say hand on heart it's got any better, but all I could do is keep reminding people of the message, and that it's not acceptable, it needs to be challenged, and there are processes out there to manage that. Is that okay? Can you hear me all okay? Is that fine? Can you hear me? Yeah? Great stuff. I can only see two faces on this. I'm not even sure how big the audience is, but I'll assume there's thousands out there, and I'll just keep talking.
No, absolutely. So what this platform tends to do, Terry, is just have the main speakers on video, and everyone else can comment and ask questions, and that's how kind of we interact. So there's people dipping in and out as well. So just to give you a bit of background context.
It's all very modern, this, honestly, and I can't believe the quality of the picture. Very, very good.
At this moment, we only can see 3, and another 1 person can join. 4 person can join at this moment. That's it.
That's fine.
But at this moment, 36 people are watching us. But this is the open platform. People can in and out. Lots of people can see us. And I think I can see somebody's background. If his true phone is on, I can see echo. So you can go for mute when one person chatting, or we can all go mute. And one thing is, after this session, this is going to be the live session. So it's a recording session. So we can save that in our Diversity Matter page and my personal page. So after that, people will view. So that will be stay there until I remove it. So normally 2,000, 3,000 people watch it afterwards, 4,000 people watch it.
Wonderful.
So it's really good.
Great.
Yeah.
It's great to get the message. Shall I roll into what I was going to say? Is that okay? Yes. So any questions? If I miss anything, just tell me to stop and ask me a question, because I'm obviously not very familiar with this particular setup. Anyway, so the way I tend to run these things, be it in a classroom or online, is to start with a question, which is, what is your experience of hate crime? So if there's people in a room, let's say, right, ask the person next to you, what is your experience of hate crime? And even online, that does generate quite a lot of activity when there's 10 or 12 people on a Zoom screen in front, because they'll say, well, my experience is, you know, I've been shouted at by a man in a van when I walk down the high street. I've been refused entry into a particular shop for wearing something which wasn't appropriate or whatever. So it's nice to get people's views on what their experiences of hate crime have been, and then just start to unpick and discuss them. So I tend to start with that very, very wide open question. You know, ask the person next to you, what are your experiences of hate crime? So probably won't work so well on this platform, but that's how I tend to start things off. Okay. What really drew me into it was that when I worked a lot of times in Hyde, I'd speak to a lot of the ladies from Hyde, of the Islamic faith, Bangladeshi, many from Bangladesh, and they would tell me that they would suffer abuse most days when they would walk onto the high streets, wearing traditional dress. Quite often, they would suffer abuse from often men driving past in vehicles. And I wonder to myself, that's awful, but is it being reported? And I was getting the impression back that it wasn't being reported by those people. And I tried throughout my time at Hyde to encourage people to report it, with some success and, to a lesser degree, some failures as well. So I just want to keep talking about that a little bit as to reasons why we don't report it. Okay. What I then move to talk about is, what is a hate incident and what is a hate crime? Now, there's a clear distinction. Now, hate crimes can be any crime that is motivated by hate. So let's say somebody's car window gets smashed and your car is the only car on your street that is owned by a black person, a Muslim person, a Jewish person, a person that's perhaps to be different and is targeted because of that difference. So their window gets smashed in the car and it's damaged to motor vehicle. Because of the motivation of that person committing the crime, it can be classified as a hate crime. Now, why is that important? It's important for a couple of reasons. Any crime that is recorded as hate related will always attract a greater sentence at court. So when a person is caught and convicted, hopefully of the incident, it will generate a greater sentence in court. But also by having a correct record of levels of hate crime and hate incidents, it helps communities understand. I mentioned before about community cohesion being part of my role. One of the ways to measure whether a particular community is cohesive, i.e. runs along nicely together, one of the measurements is the levels of recorded hate crime. Now, that may sound a little bit strange because the higher the recording, the more work required from ourselves and the police. Well, so be it. But that can be the signs of a much more cohesive community because they've got trust in the reporting processes, trust in the police, trust in the local authority, and trust in the outcomes. So I hope that's making sense, because the higher the recording levels, may think, gosh, this is a terrible situation we're in, and that can be the case, but equally, it does prove that people have a confidence in the processes that underpin the reporting mechanisms. I know it sounds a little bit academic to say that, but that's the truth behind it. Because historically, Greater Manchester and certainly Tameside does not generate a huge level of reported hate crime. That might surprise many people that live in an area where every day they get verbal abuse or there are crimes that are related to hate. So they may be surprised by that. So that makes me think again, well, actually, what is the reality? If recorded levels are low, but people's perceptions are high, there's a gap. What do we do about it? And that's really why I'm trying to have these conversations. So I hope that makes some sort of sense as we're going through. So hate crimes, just to recap, can be any crime, but it's all about the motivation of that person committing the crime. They may say, I've smashed that window because I don't like black people. I don't like Muslims, which case clearly wrong, but that's a hate crime. So as long as we're clear, any crime can be a hate crime dependent on the motivation of the offender. Now then, what are hate incidents? Could anybody challenge me on that one? What do we think a hate incident might be? Go, Lisa.
Yeah. Come on, ladies, all our followers, go on. Terry, ask a question.
Come on. I'm a nice guy. Ask me if you want.
We can
ask
read
anything
your
like.
comment.
I can always tell you anyway, but it's just, as again, this is more prepared for a classroom setting or where people can interact. It's absolutely fine. I can make it work. But hate incidents themselves can be something like, I'll read these from my list. Could be a wheelchair user refused entry into a nightclub.
Yeah.
May sound strange, but it has actually happened. It could be a laundrette.
One thing could happen in if a like person who is mixed gender and they forced to use the toilet facility.
Spot on.
Really big issue at this moment.
It's a big issue right now because that's the latest addition to the Greater Manchester Police list of those issues that will attract the right labelling when it's crimed, transphobia, that kind of thing. So again, very, very important. So it's a good one to raise. So yes, you've got that one. You've got the wheelchair user. There's one here that talks about a laundrette refusing a traveller to use their facility. So those that travel communities, we see them now and again in Ashton and Hyde and places, being refused entry because of their lifestyle to use the laundrette. Another example could be a sale of offensive material in shops. There could be a shop that might be selling something which is anti-Semitic, for example, which is offensive to those of the Jewish faith. It could be a Muslim woman asked to remove her veil to enter a shop. Okay, I've heard that's happened in different parts of the country, particularly with lockdown and so on. And also, one of the growing areas, verbal abuse, but also online abuse, and we'll touch upon that as well. Online abuse is pervasive, it's common, it's getting more common, and it seems to be, of all the areas, growing in terms of what's being reported, quite rightly so. It can also include bullying. So think about the context of somebody at work, they're being treated differently because of their ethnicity, their faith, colour and so forth. That can be deemed to be bullying in the workplace, but that can also be in school. We must never forget that as well. Bullying can happen in school, predominantly it will because of young people and the way that sometimes that they are brought up, but it can be in the workplace. Less common, but it can happen in the workplace as well. Is anybody aware of the David Askew case back in 2010? The gentleman in, if this is a bit of a worldwide or a national audience, they probably don't know the case. I can give you a quick 2 minutes on that if you like. Back in 2010, David Askew was a gentleman in his early 60s living in Hattersley, and you can Google it, no problem. And he had some serious learning disabilities. But David was a nice, gentle, older man and would like to spend time with young people. And they knew that, and they'd take cigarettes from him and take money from him. So they were all recorded as hate crimes, hate incidents when they happened. Sadly, one night in March 2010, David passed away. David died in his back garden following an altercation with one of these youths who we believe was trying to get cigarettes or money from him. No hands on, but David stumbled and died in his back garden. And we found out there were underlying health conditions. A male was arrested for that, and it was quite rightly deemed to be a hate-related incident and crime. The reason I'm mentioning that now is because that subjected the police and all agencies to a serious case review. And what that means is every single contact with David was then investigated thoroughly to find out, could we have done something sooner? And from that, a lot of learning has come out for Tameside Police around how disability hate crime in particular is categorised. But again, the benefit of it is all hate crimes now will be treated and reported and investigated the same way, very, very strictly and very stringently. The police weren't found at fault with David's situation. It was very unfortunate. But the main issue that came out was the joined up working across partnerships. So the police and other agencies as well had to work closer together, share information quicker and respond quicker to those incidents. So it's just something, again, because this presentation has been generally delivered to Tameside residents, and again, face to face, it gets a lot of interest from the group because they do remember the case because it made national press. And even I was on TV because of it as well, interviewed by various people. So it was quite a big deal in its day. As sad as it was, the learning from that was a much tighter and better process around recording hate incidents and hate crime in Tameside. Are we okay so far? Fantastic. Keep on going. Right. At this point, when I've defined what they are, I also talk about what can influence the levels of hate crime being reported. So let's think of something. Do we think that in 2016, when Brexit came out, do you think hate crime went up and hate incidents went up? What do you think? Yes, they did.
Yes, yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Yeah,
they
definitely
did.
went up.
Oh, very much so. They went up in predominantly those areas that wanted to leave, i.e. were pro if you like, UK anti-EU, so those areas. And some figures suggest that those 6 months around the referendum, there was a surge between 15 and 25% increase in reported hate crimes and hate incidents because of Brexit. And again, at this point, I'd ask, why do we think that was the case? And it can generate quite a lively discussion. Some of the points being, well, actually, it was okay to call people out and say, I don't like you, get back to Europe, or I don't like you because you're different. And it seemed to be almost normalized, that kind of behavior, particularly against Europeans like Poles and Ukrainians and Turks and what have you. Completely wrong, but certain elements of society thought it was normalized and okay to then pick on these people. And Brexit was the cause of that, or was partly a cause of that, should I say. A more up-to-date example would be in June this year was the Euro football final, for those that are football fans. I remember what happened on the Sunday night, don't we?
Yeah, somebody asked a question, Alina. She said, what about England players faced racial abuse, bulliness?
Absolutely spot on. Can we name the 3 players? It doesn't matter if you can't. I tend to what I do with this one.
Rashford or something. Rashford.
No.
Yeah, something.
Go on.
Rashford or something. Rashford.
Yeah, Marcus Rashford. Yeah.
Yeah, Marcus Rashford, and there was 3 people. So they all are.
That's right.
Yeah. My husband was there background telling me all this. He watched football all the time.
Okay. You're cheating there, Lisa.
Yeah,
you're cheating.
He always watched football.
It's all right. It was Bukayo Saka as well. Bukayo Saka, who was a player from Arsenal. They were the 3. And what I tend to do is when I'm just doing my sort of looking at those, when I'm doing it live, I just show a picture of those 3 players and say, why do you think I've included that? And and people straight away, it's because of they lost the final. Those 3 young lads missed their penalties. And as a consequence of that, online went crazy in a very, very negative way. And the final generated over 1,000 abusive tweets against those 3. And those were the tweets that Twitter were able to take down. They reckon there was 10-fold that amount that they couldn't quite get rid of in time. So when you talk about what affects hate crime and hate incidents, what I call external factors, not local to your, not on your street, not your neighbour, but things like Brexit, which is national, and of course the Euro final, which is European. So it just makes people think about what's going to impact this. So again, what I'll do then is move on to what the strands of hate crime are as well. Let me get my other slide up, which you can't see, but I can, so bear with me a second.
You can share Terry, if something in future, if you save anything in your phone, you can share on the screen.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. As I say, this is all
like it's like a picture kind of type thing.
Got it.
You can share.
Tremendous. Okay. Well, there's 5 strands that we work towards on hate crime: disability, race, ethnicity, religion or belief, transgender, and sexual orientation. And they're all specific crimes as set out in the Crime and Disorder Act of 1998. So that's all very, very grand. But at this point, I'd always show that slide to people and say, okay, of those 5 areas of known hate crime, which one do you think would generate the most reports? So to remind you, disability, race, religion, transgender, or sexual orientation. Which of those 5 spot on? Absolutely bang on, Lisa. 76% of all hate crimes reported in 2018, 76% were based on race.
Oh, wow.
Forgive me that the stats are quite old. That's the best we can get from the computers at present. Now, for those that are into it, go onto the uk.gov website and just type in hate crime for your area. Gives you much more detailed information. But I'm giving you a general idea of what hate crime is like. So nationally, across the UK, over 3/4 of all hate crime was based on race. And sexuality was second at 12%, religion was at 9%, disability at 8%, and then transgender at 2%. But Lisa, you're quite right at the very start. The transgender and the sexual orientation issue is really starting to climb now.
Now,
in terms of reported cases, particularly around hate incidents as well.
Is it
But these
not true,
specifics,
Terry? Like 70% is just normally how people coming forward. If everybody coming forward, it would be 99%.
spot on.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because it's so much thing going on and so much hate crime. Not everybody do understand what is hate crime and don't know how to report. And second thing is they're scared of reporting it. So if everybody report, it would be really, really much higher.
absolutely correct. And that's you're clearly very tuned into it, and you're quite rightly so, because it is a massive issue for society.
Lisa, do you want to read some of the comments?
Yeah.
On there, because
One
some comments.
comment at the beginning is I think we should touch on more about sexual abuse and grooming that's happening everywhere, and especially in social media, online, especially online.
Sure.
A lot of people said yes, leaving Brexit definitely impacting behavior. That is so true. It's a really big impact. Alina said a lot of people have been affected by hate crime, and so many have not reported because they system has let them down and failed them. A lot of cooperation lies within the police sectors. I don't know how. The system has failed so many people. Not changing up the report, chasing up the report. And Gemma said Lija is our expert. I think she's talking about how to go live and all those things.
You're the expert. Lisa, you are the expert without a doubt. I think they're
yeah. So wow, that is a big number. Baby Mama said this is a big number of percentage about hate crime.
Yeah. I mean, those are all again very valid comments. And I think the one to do with the grooming is a separate input altogether, because the world around that is about getting children to be safe online, and that there's a big world around that, how to do it properly. And I can't pretend to be an expert in that because it's a very specialized area. Because as we know, youngsters these days, when I was a kid, the internet didn't even exist. So young people now are living with that from day one. How do we deal with that? So that's a separate case, but again, it does generate a lot of
it might be in future we can focus on something that like that, and online if people wanted to learn about it, we can arrange something, a guest speaker who is expert in that section, and they can talk about it.
That'll be very worthwhile. So thank you for those questions. Just please keep them coming as well. So no surprise that the race issue, if you like, 76% of all reported crimes. One thing I did talk about very quickly at the very start was internet and social media, the fact that it's starting to really increase as well. What I tend to share at this point is a way of checking who is hosting a website, because when you see something online which is hateful, you think, well, actually, who's put that on there? Where has that come from? So if it's on a website, how do I find out who is hosting that particular website? And the way you probably know this yourself already, but the way to do that is to go into a site called whoishostingthis.com. And you're able then to track back as to which of the main network providers is hosting that site. So for example, I'm a big cycling fan. I've been a cyclist all my life, and I'm very much into my cycling. So I did test that. One of the main cycling teams I follow is Team Sky, or Team Ineos as they're called now. You go into their website and you go whoishostingthis.com, type in the website. It tells you which of the main firms is providing the platform for that. In the case of Sky, it's somebody called NTT, the Nippon Telegraph and Telephone Company. And at the very bottom of that was an address and a phone number in London. I phoned the number and it actually exists as well. So the point I want to get across as a learning point is that if you're concerned about a website, you can find out who's hosting it and you can complain yourself. So by using whoishostingthis.com, you're able to find out from a website which particular platform is hosting it, and you can then make your own complaint. Okay, I just found a very useful tip, particularly for parents that might be concerned about activities that their children are taking part in. So it's just useful. If you know your children are using a particular website, go onto whoishostingthis.com, punch in the website, it'll tell you who in fact is hosting it. If you find that content is inappropriate, make a complaint direct to that particular hosting platform. Okay.
That's really useful to know.
You're welcome. Really good. I never knew that.
There you go. Yeah, you're very welcome. It's
We'll
funny
be
how,
online, all of us now.
get on
Yeah.
there, just
Checking
check
up on
this.
all the
It doesn't actually work. Yes, it does. We've already touched on as well about the reasons why people wouldn't report or aren't reporting hate crime and hate incidents. And again, at this point, if it's face to face, I'll ask the group. People tell me, why is it people don't report it? What's the problem? Why don't people come forward and tell us that this is happening every day or whenever it occurs?
Something happened recently with one of my relative. It was a big thing happened actually. One of my relative was dropping by his girlfriend one night after work about 11:30, and some people attacked the both of them because literally he was getting out the car, and because the attack happened on the moment, he could get into the car and they drove off. If he was not, if he was on the spot, he couldn't get into the car, then he would be murdered that night. It was
Goodness.
It was a mistake, they said. When they went to the police came, took every details, and then when they called for the person said it was a mistake. They was looking for some other Asian people, and when they seen the couple, they thought that couple is that people who was watching them, and they was run after them, and it was a big sword on their hand and everything. It was a proper attack going on. Because she got a very good car, she survived, and they both survived. But after that, when they want to report that crime, they were so scared because they was living in that area, and who the attacker was the same area. So they was thinking if they go ahead with the case, then they would be leave the area and something will happen. So they didn't get ahead with the case. They just closed the case because they were scared if something happening. But I felt so upset thinking about is that because of them they stop it and they didn't go ahead. Might be some other time some other people not going to be that lucky to escape on that day. They could be murdered on the spot. Do you know what I mean? And
I understand.
It was a scary moment. It was a scary things, but again we should be brave enough to tackle those hate crime. And it was a very heart touching things, and every time I think about it, I feel fearful thinking about it. Might be I could be the person one day, and because of the one person back up, I could be saved my life. Do you know what I mean? Things like that. It's really it is really scary.
It's upsetting, scary, and it stays with the individual for an awful long time. It's something very hard to forget. It really is difficult. So I do sympathise. Was that dealt with within Tameside, that particular case? Was it someplace else?
No. It was outside Manchester. It was outside Manchester somewhere. But there was a very good team. That police was very helpful. There was 2 days. There was observation, under observation, the house and the person. But my worry about that, what if you are not going through with a police, you could go to the hate crime website and report the incident, and can be anonymous, and you're hiding your name and could be report that system. Do you know what I mean? Nobody would know who reported, and that case would be already filed there. Do you know what I mean? And that could be dealt some different way. When I talk with them openly about it, because Rehana was suggesting me to have a chat with them and tell them to go hate crime website and report the incidents. Just keep their name hidden, and that could be filed. At least file is there. So in future, if something happened, they know who is done and things like that. But they didn't go ahead with that. So it was quite heart touching. I know what they going through. Maybe they was really scared, and only they know how they've been and things like that. But if that was already been in the list, then next time if something happening like that, they would be more aware of it. Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree. And that's a very good example of at least report it. Whatever's happened, at least report it, because it's a very sad case you've described there, which should have led to convictions. I understand the reasons why they didn't, but at the very least, it's been reported, and the police systems will have all the intelligence about the case. So if these individuals decide to do it again, at least they've got information about a previous incident, and that matters so much when you're building a case to prosecute. So thanks for sharing that with us, but the outcome can be difficult. I do understand that. So again, at this point, I'd normally ask, what are the reasons why people don't report it? And that's one of them. A negative view of the police. people have a very negative view of police, rightly or wrongly, depending where you live. But 95% of the public never come into contact with the police. They just don't, be it as victims or offenders. So many of us, okay, I was a policeman, that's different, but many of us may never have a reason to even speak to the police, and yet there's still a very negative view of the police, which I can understand. There can be a lack of understanding. Well, actually, was this a crime? Is it something I should report? And that's partly why I'm doing this, because again, one of the reasons for not reporting it is, well, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know whether we should or we shouldn't, and we didn't know what the process was. Another common one is, well, it wasn't serious enough. It was just somebody giving me a hard time. It happens every day. Well, actually, it's not acceptable. And once you understand the line, and that line has been crossed, you should have the confidence to report it. And these are often serious.
And I think that is so true, Terry, because I think we've just as a service as well work with a lot of vulnerable women in the community from specific faith, and kind of outwardly on the face of it, they're obviously from a specific faith, and they tend to get racial abuse every day, and it's literally accepted by them, thinking that it's ignorance, they don't know, I get it every day, and it's played down, and it's become the norm, which is unacceptable. It shouldn't be the norm.
Very much so.
Nobody should be going through that. But again, and I think somebody else made a comment on this live IG as well, about actually that trust has kind of disappeared now. I mean, we worked several years ago, Terry, when you were part of the force as well, around building that trust, and we did a lot of work in the community, and we got people involved as well, and we were building that up. But in the last few years, that's crumbled, and that trust issue has risen again. That confidence with the force has risen again as well, and especially what Lisa's been saying as well. It's not just in Manchester, it's not just in Tameside, it's across the UK that these communities of identity feel this way, with a service that's supposed to be there to protect them, to serve and protect them. And why is it that it's going wrong? Is that something more internal now? It needs to be looked at, rather than depending on individuals to make that difference. So I think that's a bigger conversation that needs to be held on a separate platform.
I think you bang on. I mean, the issue, I'll be very honest about it. I mean, we look at the years of austerity, and I can be honest, being part of a neighbourhood policing team for so many years, you can see the changes because of cuts, and the duties of your local officers changed. They would be dragged away to do other things, perhaps away from their area, because that became more of a priority. And everything you've just said there is absolutely accurate. You've lost your connection with your local inspectors, sergeants and PCs, because I guarantee when I was there, you'd probably know who your local PC was, be it Mark Akers or Jed Nelson or whoever else it would have been. You would have known your local PC at that time, and that seems to have changed. Now, the new chief, which is quite right, is going to make sure that starts to come back. So I'd encourage anybody on the call is to get to know your local neighbourhood beat officer, NBO, for those living in Greater Manchester. Find out who they are. Have a contact number for them. Get to know your local PC, because there's definitely a shift now towards having that more front and centre of policing, rather than the reactive, just go in there when there's an issue. Neighbourhood policing is the absolute bedrock of communities, and you need to have it in place. Without that, all these things become worse. It's so important, and I did so many years doing it, and you're right, it has slid, and I understand why, but it doesn't make it right, and I'd like to see it improve. So do promise me you'll go and find out who your local officer is, and if you don't know, I'll find out for you. I'll make sure they ring you.
But if you go back 2 years, we used to, but I don't have a clue.
Oh, gosh. Well, I won't embarrass that person now, but I know who it is for your area, and I can certainly share that with you privately. But
well, to be honest with you, I'm sure some people do, because there is some connection. But I think with the pandemic, has it affected a lot in the local communities. So, look to kind of build that up again.
I think we have to. Yeah, I think you're right. We have to.
Yeah.
I'll take a few comments.
Please do, yeah.
So Lokon said, one of positive. I went to a Islamic funeral recently. My cousin. Majority of the guests were from non-Muslim faith. However, they all practice inside the mosque and paid their respect towards the funeral. I think
That's great.
is despite not being from a same faith. It was really inspired and beautiful. However, faith came together for an individual. It's really nice to see, yes, when something going on and everybody mixed up and everybody show their respect for each other. It's such a nice platform. Sometimes it's really nice. So I think
that's positive.
It is a very, very big thing. The hate crime is going really high. At the same time, people are getting more educated and they are more research online. And I think is one point is it is hate crime going up. At the same time, our community is getting together very, very strongly. This COVID made us to understand what is feel like to be locked down in the house and to be lonely. And after this lockdown, I feel people just this lockdown, people COVID give people a pause in their life to sit down and think about it. Oh my God, what we're doing. We're missing our family, friends, neighbors, everyone, and we're not giving attention to anyone. And we are so busy in our life. What's going on around the world? We're just ignoring everything. But this COVID lockdown, people was more focusing on what's going on around this world, what's going on neighborhood, what's going on in our local area. People was more focusing. And I think this is a one way, it is a big things like to think about hate crime and what's going on. And another thing is bonding our community very, very strong. In one way, it is bad. And another way, we are educated ourselves. We are more researching and we are all getting together to make the bonding strong. So everything is hand to hand, same way it's going. But in
I
future,
think you're right. And the more we talk about these things openly, then we don't just save it for 1 week in October when we can. We have these conversations all the time, and you'd be surprised how people start to understand it becomes part of the conversation, that there's a certain line you just don't cross. And unless that's dealt with, people will keep crossing the line because, you know what, last time I got away with it. Well, no, that stops. Even if it's just the police saying stop, may have an impact. That one person may stop, and if not, you go to different levels of enforcement. So I think I was just down my list there of reasons why people don't report it. Lack of evidence is quite important as well. I had one case or a couple of cases in Hyde when I was there when a couple of young Asian guys were abused on the street many years ago, and they weren't bothered. It happens every day, but they didn't want to prosecute. However, we got CCTV, registration numbers of vehicles. We found the driver, he admitted it, he got a massive fine. So although the guys weren't bothered, we still reported the crime because of the verbal abuse they got. We located the offender, the driver and the passenger, and they both got hefty fines because of what they did. And we did that based on the CCTV and evidence of others, not of the victims as such. So it's not down to the victim to establish a level of evidence, okay? They just need to report it. It's down to the authority. I'm not a policeman now, but it's down to the police and the authorities to do that. But it shouldn't be a reason not to report it. So that's the point I want to make, really. The evidential standard is not down to the victim. They should still report it. And then the police and authorities need to deal with it, with what's there, and go hunting for the evidence as well. And sometimes people feel embarrassed if they're a victim. They don't want the families to know. They feel like they should have done something themselves about it, perhaps. And they don't want neighbours, friends, relatives to know that they've been a victim of these kind of incidents. And the other one is the fear of threats. They're scared of reprisals. They may know this person that's given them a hard time, been abusive towards them, could be a bigger boy at school or something like that. And there's fear of threats and reprisals. And they're frightened for their own safety. We, as adults and professionals, should try and encourage people to still report it. Again, it's about having faith in the system and the reporting process. I know it's difficult, but sometimes it's that putting the arm around people professionally and saying, look, we will support and help you. But I do know it's real. That fear is real of threats. But we as professionals can only slowly work on that with people. So those are some of the reasons why, and I think that's why these conversations are so important. Just to reassure you about the police approach as well, you may know this already. Whenever a hate crime or hate instance is reported, the same day or the following morning at the very latest, all those reported hate crimes, hate incidents are discussed at the morning meeting. And that morning meeting on each police borough discusses all the serious incidents, robberies and so forth. But there's an item on there for all hate crimes and hate incidents. So the very senior police officer on that division will know of all the hate crimes that have occurred that previous day. And his or her job is to make sure they're correctly recorded, allocated to an officer, and progressed as well. So you often hear, I told the police and the police did nothing. That might be the case, but they've reported it and they should get a good reason why nothing has happened. So whenever something is written off and not progressed, there has to be a reason for that. So if anybody ever says that to you, say, did you go back to the police and find out why they didn't progress it? Because there has to be quite a lengthy reason why. But I wanted to reassure those on the call that certainly within Greater Manchester, and I'm not, bigging up the police because I work there, that's not my job anymore. But I wanted to reassure people that the process is in place for those crimes to be looked at every single morning and allocated and progressed. But if you're not satisfied with the outcome or the officers involved, you must make a complaint. Okay. Okay. Any questions on that? Quick look of coffee. Carry on.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you so much. Yes.
Is that okay? Right. I've got a few more bits. Are we okay for time?
Yes.
Are you sure? Right.
Yes.
Okay. I'll just pick out the most important bits to take away, really. Right. The best way to report it. Okay. The next question for the group would be, how would you report hate crime? What would you do? Now, again, this generates quite a bit of activity in the room because things have changed. In my day, before the internet, it would be pick up a phone. Fine, we can still do that. 999 or 10
for emergency, yes.
Yeah. So what exactly? So 999 or 101, there is a big difference in that. 999 is emergency happening in front of me. The person is still here. Somebody's at risk. Come and get him. 101 is a number where something has happened. You've managed to get away to safety. The bad person's disappeared, and that urgency is gone. You can still report it via 101. So 999 is for immediate response. 101 is to report something after where there's no imminent threat or danger. Okay?
Oh, thank you. It's good to know. I didn't know.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
Well, in most cases, Terry, I get the phone calls for emergency contact for some reason. I get calls to deal with fire breakouts, police matters.
Oh, blimey.
And have you tried ringing 999?
Have you tried this one instead? Is this really my job?
I have panicked people on the phone to me every other week.
That's because you're so helpful. That's what it is. You're so helpful. That's what it is.
But
I think it's just what
community, and we do a lot of activity trading, and people think they can call me for anything. They can call us for anything.
I speak to Shibley a lot, and Shibley tells me the same thing. I'm amazed you girls ever get any time to yourselves because you're constantly phoned by members of the community that want the simplest of things, but you're so helpful. That's what you do, and credit to you for doing that. So I was just going to talk briefly about the reporting methods. Yeah, 999, 101, you can do all those things, which is absolutely fine. Because time has moved on, in society, time's moved on. People are more comfortable these days in reporting a lot of crime online. And reporting of a hate crime is no different at all. And the takeaway from this is to discuss the True Vision website. So it's the two words, True Vision. You've probably heard about it already. So police, yes, friends, carers, other adults if you're a child, your local neighbourhood team, all those people in authority, you can tell them, of course you can, but you may find that you want the peace and quiet at home to think it through and report it online on your own computer. And that's what the True Vision website is all about. It's accessible, and again, although it's a national website, it is funded via the police authorities, and it will go straight through to the right policing area responsible for that location. So you could report something in the middle of London that happened in Tameside, and it would be allocated to an officer in Tameside to deal with. So it's national, but it will go to the right location very quickly and be picked up and discussed no later than the following day. And I'm a big fan of that website because it takes away that, I wouldn't say embarrassment is the right word, but sometimes people are anxious about telling people what's happened. They'd rather write it down, make sure it's correct, and then send it. So that's the main sort of learning point from this particular section, is the use of the True Vision website. Again, police funded. There's lots of other useful information on there as well, but it is a good portal for reporting all types of hate crime and hate incidents. If you're not sure which it is, if you're not sure what the actual incident is it a crime or an incident, don't worry. You report what you've seen, and the person at the other end will categorize it correctly for you. Okay, so don't be fearful that it's going to demand lots of information. So True Vision is the right website to go to. Over and above the other means you would like to use to report it, be it over the phone or to friends or teachers or so forth. And that's basically it. I'm going to race through a wee bit because, again, the participation is important in this. We get lots of information coming back. Yeah. And one question I normally ask is, how can this group, big slide here, how can this group help get the message out there? And I say these three things: talk about it and encourage victims of hate crime to report it. So you talk about it amongst your colleagues and friends and encourage them. And it's not a case of locking everybody up and throwing away the key. It's making it stop. And just by reporting it, the right person being told can make a lot of low-level cases stop. And without reporting it, they won't stop. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, you understand your communities best. You know the best way to get the message out there to people. You know, I'm a middle-aged white guy from Longsight. What do I know? You know, I was in the cops for years. So I've got my way of delivering the message, but you know how to get the message out there to your different communities. And then the last thing from this particular slide is, please share the message. And I'm so glad you said before that, you know, any Zoom or stuff, I'll happily come back and speak to any group about this. It may be the same kind of content, but I just want to keep getting the message. I'm doing something similar to a disabilities group tomorrow and to a poverty action group on Friday. I don't mind who I speak to about it because it affects absolutely everybody. And it's not just that visible issue of race or religion. There are other strands to hate crime as well. So it does affect a lot of people. So really, that is a bit of a reduced, 50 minutes version without the interaction. Been great to speak to you girls, obviously, but normally we get a lot more people shouting at me and stuff, which is great. I don't mind that. I've had it all my life. So there are just one or two points from that, as I say. The main thing is the True Vision website. Yeah. Look at the website if you are unsure about the platform hosting websites, particularly for young people. So who is hosting this.com and the difference between hate crimes and hate incidents. And I think we've covered most of those as well. But anything I've missed, you'd like me to come back and do a full-blown stand-up flip charts, the lot, I'll come back. It's not a problem. But I'm just grateful for the opportunity to speak about it because it's something I'm pretty passionate about, and I'd like us to be better at it as a borough and get those conversations out there more often than just a couple of weeks in a year. So that's
Are the hate crime reporting centres still operational? Because I know Health Delivery Centre is one of them.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's a good question. I'll be honest with you. I took the role just before the pandemic started, and I believe that the previous 2 years there have been no reports from any of the centres. So I need to do a review of the centres, if I'm being honest. I want to make sure they're up to date. They want to carry on, and then just go through the simple reporting mechanisms. If nothing else, if they can flag people to the website, the True Vision website, I'm happy. But I'd like to lay a few more bits on top of that as well. But it's a long way of saying they've not been working for a long time. And I'd like to refresh that when I get a chance. There's only just me at the moment, but I would like to refresh that and get it better. But they have a role to play. because they can be safe havens as well, a safe space, and that's important for people as well.
Yeah.
There's some work ongoing in different parts of the country about safer spaces. So places like Boots are doing some work now around domestic violence and sexual abuse, and you can use keywords and report from Boots. And I think other parts of the world are looking at places like Starbucks and Costa that are becoming safer spaces to discuss things like sexual orientation and other elements of transphobia and all the rest of it. So there's lots of work in the background. I just think our reporting centres are a little bit out of date now compared to what's happening in the big world. And I do need to refresh that and make it more bespoke for what we need. So it's a work in progress.
I have two questions for you, Terry. First question is, please let me know if you have any contact, who the best person to talk about sexual abuse and things like that.
Absolutely.
To educate our kids.
Yeah, sure.
And second things, do you guys go to school, Terry, and do talk about hate crime or teach young kids how to report a bulliness or how to report a hate crime? Do you do a session like this, anything like this?
I haven't yet, but I'd very much like to, because we're starting from quite a small base at the moment, and I just think it's important that this message it goes right across the board. It's from every age group, and I think it's important to get into schools.
I think, what, especially high school, because kids are more understandable and 14 plus. I think if they are not sending you invite, like from your side, because you are so passionate about it, I think like you should invite, like tell them, I like to visit your high school to come and chat about openly hate crime. It's really important because so many things going on, and our kids are such a innocent kids. They scared about things to say openly. Might be your chat and your explanation give them the strength to open up. Do you know what I mean?
That's very kind. I'd like to do that. I think the difficulty I faced is because of COVID. We've not been invited anywhere at the moment, but it's certainly on my list of things to look at, because the broader the message, and you're right, getting to a younger person may stop the victim of the future and will stop an offender of the future, because it may suddenly shatter their views about the person they think they mistrust or hate. Well, why do you hate them? Why do you mistrust them? What's the problem? Once you start talking openly about it and you keep talking about it, it makes a massive difference. It shouldn't become just something you talk about once a year. That annoys me so much, because I lived this in my job for 3 decades. It's something which happens every day, and it's so important to talk about it. If you don't, it becomes almost a case of, we mustn't talk about that. Oof, we shouldn't talk about that. Well, I think you do have to talk about it. Why do we treat each other differently? Where's the kindness? Where's the respect? And all those things that come out from those conversations. But I'd love to get into schools, but with COVID, we as a community safety team haven't had those ways in, if you like. But it's something I'd like to do more of. Yeah. So help. Get me in there. In future we are looking into, so leave it to me. Let's see what we can you're a star. Thank you.
From Diversity Matter Northwest, and I think really October we need to rearrange another good session in the Zoom. So
please do. I'll come back and speak about anything. Give me a bit of notice. I'll come back and speak. This is something I'm passionate about.
That's great.
That's great. Any more questions from me?
I think everybody really enjoyed this session. They said educated people is very important, and few of people really requesting to save this live. Yes, we will save this live. It's very important. Terry, you can save this live after you log on. You can save this live in your feed. When you log out from your live IG page, you can see, can you save this live, and you can choose save this live. Even Rahana, you can do the same when you pressing the cross button on the right hand side in the corner, and they will say, do you want to, they will ask you all the question, do you want to save this live, and you just go to save this live, and that live will save in your feed, so that will stay until you.
We need a one-to-one session with you, Lisa.
Very good. I've learned more tonight than I've learned in years. Very good. I have no idea.
You know what?
And also, I'm with you on this,
To
I've
Terry.
reach
learned
out
so
a
much.
thousand and thousand of people. So it's such
That's
a good
great.
platform. Even you can do some kind of session like that in Facebook. It's more wider, more
Wow.
open, and such a
That's
good
great.
platform to share.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I've enjoyed doing that. It's been great. And thanks for teaching me how to use the platform as well. But if I can do anything future, just please give me,
Please
you know I
invite
am.
us.
Just
Yeah, anything
please give
you
me a
like.
shout. I'm just up the
I'm
road.
happy
Give
to
me a
support.
shout.
I have a big followers. All my followers are very, very good, so they always support me and
Fantastic.
love me. So anything you thinking, Terry, you want to do in your page,
Sure.
and you want to pass message, you can always contact me. I'm
Wonderful.
happy to support you from Diversity Matter Northwest.
You're a star. Thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you so much, Terry, for joining us today.
My pleasure, and thank you for the invitation. So hopefully I'll see you face to face, and I'll bring some cake next time. How's that?
Oh, that's
Agreed.
great. Yes.
Agreed. I have dietary requirements.
We don't mind. We don't mind. You want it? I'll bring it. I don't mind.
Get into the office and I can't eat it. I'll be
Oh,
very,
I'm
very unhappy.
sorry. Okay. Chocolate biscuits. Is that any good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Brilliant. Thanks again, ladies. All the best.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
everyone.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.
So you can press that. Yeah, that's good. That's a good session. Wow, that is a lot of things to know, actually. Yeah. Yeah, it was a wake-up call to everyone to actually stand up and talk about and respect for the police. Yes, it is. It is. Such a good comment, Alia. Thank you so much. Lokon said, really informative session, actually. Really found this discussion interesting. Thank you so much, Terry, Rehana, and Lija. It was our pleasure. It was our pleasure. Please save this live, sister. Yes, inshallah, Nazma, we will save this live. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I did see a lot of people deep in, deep out, but it is such a big topic. But we are thinking from Diversity Matter, we're thinking to do a session because October month is a hate crime month, and we will try to do a session. So if anyone interested to join this session by Zoom, please DM me. It will be more details and more people going to be there. And you can openly chat and you openly ask questions. So please DM me if you're really interested to do that session in a Zoom. Do you want to say anything, Rihanna?
No, I just kind of thank you for everyone joining us, and hopefully, I mean, it has been informative. And hopefully Terry can come again and elaborate on some of the conversation he started today. Yeah. So let's treat this as a taster session to start wider conversation. But again, action and taking action when you are faced with hate crime is really, really important, because if the police force is not aware of what's happening in the community, the resources won't come into the community to help.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very important. And the last comment I made just before Terry had left, we at the High Healthy Living Centre are a hate crime reporting centre. So if you do struggle with getting online or completing the online True Vision form to report hate crime, the staff are on hand at the centre to help you to do that. So we are very passionate about addressing racial inequalities in Tameside as well. So yes, any support that's needed, do get in touch with us at the centre. And again, thank you very much for staying with us this evening. And yeah, lovely seeing everybody on here. And thanks, Lisa, for organising it.
Thank you. Thank you. It was my pleasure, because when last time Terry was doing the PowerPoint, and when I attended the hate crime session, I was thinking, that's a big platform, and a lot of people don't even know what is hate crime is. Do you know what I mean? And it would be really, really good if we could connect in Instagram, because it's a wider open platform. People can join. And because when we do session, it's a good session, but it's 15, 20 people or 30 people. We cannot like get more than that. Do you know what I mean? Because it's too much for one session. But I feel like that when in Instagram is a more wider and open, and is more people can understand things. But it would be more better if a lot of people join our session and throwing a lot of questions. That would be really great opportunity to ask Terry the question. So next time, inshallah, I will request all my followers join us and ask as many questions as you want. If you want to know more details about it, the guest speaker is there to answer your question. If we don't know anything, something, we will take the question and come back to you the answer. So I will say everybody, all the audience are really great, but that would be great if you could jump in and asking a lot of questions and all those things. So it'll be great to answer and know about it. Because as many as question you will ask, the answer will come out, and that will be learning curves for us as well. So it's really good. And inshallah, you can see more session like this kind of knowledgeable session in our Diversity Matter Northwest and my page. And I really requesting everyone, please, follow Diversity Matter Northwest, their website. You can find out all the session going on, all the activity going on, all the free session going on. And we do a lot of things in Diversity Matter Northwest. So anything you need, if you are in Thameside, our door is open for you. I am a BME community liaison worker. If you are struggling with your language support, if you cannot access any service because of your language barrier, I am there to help you. I will hold your hand and take you and walk you through with you. I'm not going to leave you alone. So in Diversity Matter, not only me, we are a big team. We are a lot of staff in the building. So when you walking, you will be welcome like with our warm heart and all the support you needed. So you can, well,
not until the 6th of September though.
Yes. It's not opening until September, but they can call us. Yeah, they can call. Yes, you always can call.
Our lines are still open.
Yes. So thank you so much, and thank you so much, Rehanna, for joining. And Terry was good. It was a really nice session. So thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Good night for tonight. Yes, Taslima is there. She said, nice to see both your face. Alina said, great session, ladies. Thank you. And Taslima, we miss you.
You can join us in one of these live sessions as well from wherever you are.
Yeah, she can. Yes, they can. Yes. So, assalamu alaikum.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. Thank you. Great session. Walaikum salam. It is my pleasure. Inshallah, I will cut you later. I'm coming back in 10 minutes to ask you what do you feel like, because I don't want to add in this session, like, how did you feel? Did you think it's a good session? Do you want to learn about more other session? What kind of session do you want me to do? Because as a community liaison worker where I work, Diversity Matter Northwest, this is my role, come here. And it's not just only my role. I feel like there's a need, a lot of stuff we need to talk about it. And as I said, I'm not a specialist to all, and I can help you guys. And I can invite, a lot of people are going through stress and depression. Inshallah, I will get a specialist to talk about that depression and anxiety, how to deal with it. So I'm looking for a guest speaker, inshallah. From Diversity Matter Northwest, we can invite any guest speaker and come and talk about it. And for now, I will say bye. Yes, assalamu alaikum. Bye.